Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good night for some people. So my name is Sivam Velaidam and welcome all of you. Welcome. Thank you for joining. I want to quickly go through a couple of announcements, actually introduction. My name is Sivam Velaidam and I am the founder and the president of Voice of Men 360. Before I bring our host for today's panel discussion, I would like to give you a brief introduction about Voice of Men 360 and International Men's Day. Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization founded in 2020 and is based in Toronto, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born out of seeing the tremendous need of boys and men in society. Voice of Men 360 stepped up to support and help them in many areas of their lives. We are part of International Men's Day, which is a global organization. IMD is based on 6 pillars, which has to do with overall the well-being of boys and men. It has been around for over 21 years and celebrated in nearly 90 countries. These countries join together to do various activities on a regular basis. Let me introduce our host. Kristen Banfield is a Canadian family engagement practitioner. She has 17 years of career experiences in the area of child welfare and advocacy. Previously, she was teaching English as a second language abroad. Kristen's specialties are volunteerism and employment, working with vulnerable populations of all ages and various cultures. She is a daughter, granddaughter, niece, sister, cousin, wife, mother, aunt, friend. Most of all, she is a LA. So, welcome, Kristen. Thank you for joining, actually, with a short notice. Thank you for taking over. Here you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction, and I'm very excited for tonight's event. Excited to get to know our panel. We are very blessed to have an international panel of youth to talk to us about things that teenagers might be struggling with. And who better to ask than the teenagers themselves. So welcome, guys. Thank you very much for being here. Before we dive into our discussion tonight, I'm just going to take care of a little bit of business, but I'd like for our panelists, as well as those participating and listening in the audience, to pay attention, because even though we're here for a really good discussion, there are some things that we need to consider. So I'm just going to go over that with you before we get into our discussion. Okay, guys? So just appreciate a thumbs up or a head nod or what have you, so I know that you can hear me all right. Awesome, thank you. So please be advised that the content brought forward for anything facilitated by Voice of Men 360 is always brought forward in good faith, however, may bring forth dialogue and opinions that are not representative of this agency and organization. The facts and information are always believed to be accurate at the time they are offered. All facilitators, guest speakers, panel members, and audience participants are responsible for using their own good judgment in taking any actions that may relate to our discussions. The content brought forward may include discussion for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It's important to know that this organization is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and we are not providing any therapeutic advice. If you need crisis intervention or therapy, you need to engage the services of a mental health professional. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panel discussion, you may freely contact the Voice of Men 360 organization through the website, and the contact information is posted there. So with this now said and going forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in this event this evening, in any capacity, we welcome you. And should you decide that this event is not for you at this time, we respect that choice and we welcome you to join us again at a later date. Any questions, guys, about that at all? We're all set. Anything, Sivam, from the audience? Or we're good to go? Okay, I'm getting the thumbs up. So here we go, guys. What I'd ask, if you could just take a minute and introduce yourselves. If you're comfortable, let us know where you're from and how old you are, and we'll go from there. Does that work? Awesome. Okay. Okay, so Sivam, will you unmute the panelists and they can go ahead and introduce themselves? Luke, do you mind if we start with you? Awesome, thank you. Oh, can't hear you. Hold on, kiddo. There we
All
go.
good?
Yep.
Hey, my name's Luke Mullins. I'm from the UK and I'm 15 years old.
Welcome. Ben?
Hey, my name is Benjamin Wong. Most people call me Ben though, and I'm 14 years old and I'm from Los Angeles.
Okay. Sean?
Hey,
Oh,
hey, my name is Kishantan Tayaharan, or if it's hard to say my first name, which a lot of people, you guys could call me short form as Sean. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I'm 15 years old.
welcome. And our last Canadian on the panel?
Hi everyone, my name is Sanjana Ambegaonkar. I'm also from Toronto, and it's very nice to be here.
Wonderful to have all of you. Thank you very much for being here. You know, like I said earlier, who better than to go to the source to talk about what's important to teenagers today? And I'm very excited to have you guys here. And let me just, hold on, I'm missing Alex.
Yeah.
I don't see him on my screen. There you are, Alex. Okay, you're dead set in the middle. Away you go. Let us know who you are.
Hello, I'm Alex. I'm 13 years old and I'm here in Queensland, Australia.
So we really have quite an international panel then, from all corners of our world just about. So that in of itself is very impressive and it's very inspiring. So again, thank you to all for being here. Shall we dive into our discussion? Yeah, okay, awesome. So I'm just going to cheat a little bit and have a look at our questions so I don't forget anything. So really talking about things that teenagers are struggling with, I think it's also important that we make sure we talk about things that are positive as well, right? You want to have a good balance of things. And I think we had asked you guys to think about what happiness is to you. So why don't we start there? Okay, all right. So talking about happiness and what you think that means to you, who might like to start? Okay, go ahead.
Happiness to me is finding the joy in everything that you do. And the way that I find the easiest way to do that is to create a game out of everything I'm doing. So whether it's a test that I'm doing, I always like to add that playful feature in order to gain that happiness from it and me giving it energy as well to give happiness to myself. And so no matter what situation I'm in, I'm always playing a game with that, whether it's dealing with people that are clients of mine or my little brother or teachers. I think it really, really creates that happiness for me and the others around me.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off of what Sanjana said, for me, it would be, being able to, if you hypothetically like died tomorrow, being able to look back and be happy at everything you did so far, living with no regrets. Yeah.
Well said, you guys. I really like the idea of being playful, of making sure you're paying attention to the energy that you're giving and receiving and being able to apply that no matter what it is that you're looking at. That's a wonderful way of viewing things and can really help also in stressful times, right? If you're keeping that in your mind and living as if today might be your last, some people, that's a really good reminder to not let things heavy weigh them down and do the best that they can in the moment. Guys, do you have anything to add? Alex, what were you thinking as the other two were sharing their insights?
Well, for me, I definitely agree with Ben as living every day as if it was your last. I mean, that's a really good example of being happy and being in the moment.
And I mean, I think I have to clarify a little bit of what I mean by saying, living every day as if it's your last. I think some people would interpret that as, focusing on like shorter term goals, but I don't think that's really what the term means. I think that by living every day like it's your last, there's this quote. It's like, even if I knew the world was going to end tomorrow, I would still plant an apple tree today. And so by saying, living every day as if it's your last, I think there still needs to be, an element of that in working towards building towards a better future, if that makes sense, everything I'm saying.
Totally makes sense. I agree.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
definitely. Like living your life to the fullest.
Luke and Sean, what are your thoughts around what's been shared and things you might like to bring in on happiness?
Well, like to me, the term happiness is a mental or emotional state which includes positive and pleasant emotions and memories. Happiness to me is when I feel satisfied and fulfilled in what I'm doing, and I feel contentment that life is just as it should be. Times when I feel happy or when I do something that I love or when I'm around my loved ones. Like some examples is I love playing soccer because it's a team sport and it's just not a one-man show. And when I go play soccer, I get to meet my friends and talk to them and catch up in life. I feel happy and that boost of joy in myself when I play soccer. And when I'm around when I'm around my family, like on Fridays, we have family game night and play games with my family. That brings me happiness and joyful memories. Another thing that makes me happy, and this is my favorite one, is listening to upbeat music because it puts me in a mood to dance. And when I'm dancing, I forget my problems and I enjoy and feel the music while dancing.
Wonderful. Those are great examples and things and very easy things that you can incorporate into your life. That's for sure. And being in the middle of a pandemic, I know has put a damper on a lot of things that people could do freely. And you have to be creative and looking at some of those things that you've mentioned, Sean, are wonderful to inspire others. And what are you thinking, Luke?
Yeah, for me, it really is about doing what I'm really passionate about. And I do think fulfillment is a different thing. Like yesterday, I made myself a steak and that was amazing. Best steak I've ever had in my life. Medium rare, perfect. My dad was like, oh, it's raw in the middle. I was like, Dad, no, that's medium rare. That's how you cook a steak. That's how Gordon Ramsay does it. But fulfillment, on the other hand, I think that's, you work hard and you get rewarded. But it's working hard, but it's not hard for you. You just get it done and you're fulfilling a purpose and then you get rewarded at the end of the day. So if I go back last Friday, I built a website for mine and Alex's business partnership. And that was amazing for me. I just did it and I felt fulfilled in the moment.
Wow, you guys are seriously rock stars. And I should have mentioned I'm also coming from Canada. So we're no stranger to Gordon Ramsay. So maybe Sivam can put that on for another topic. We'll see if we can't get Chef on our screen someday. Yeah, no, guys, wow, this is great. What a beautiful beginning to our discussion. And I love how all of you really are looking in the moment, but also you're broadening the thoughts to be thinking ahead, to be thinking about the future, to be thinking about things, something as much finding joy in making yourself or your family a meal to, looking further ahead and finding joy in bigger aspirations. That's wonderful to hear. Sean, I really loved your phrasing there, boost of joy. We can all use a boost of joy, can't we? Right. And that's really a nice segue into some of the things that we're going to continue to dive into. And that's where I want to ask you guys, what are your thoughts on what might be getting in the way of happiness for teenagers today? So you guys thank you, Luke. No, I was just going to say, you guys have had a great flow going. So if you feel that natural pause to dive in, please do so, okay? Because I don't want to interrupt that for you, but I will. I'll pick on you if I need to. Okay, go ahead.
So for me, it's two things really. It's comparing yourselves to others, and social media does an excellent job of amplifying this. Every time you go on social media, you see the highlights, you see the best part of everyone's lives. And it's really easy to go, oh, that guy's in better shape than me. That girl is prettier than me, etc. That guy's got better clothes than me. And this really isn't the way to go. You should be comparing yourself to yourself a week ago. Oh, what am I doing this week to be better? And a lot of people don't understand that because everyone's in a different point in life. You know, me compared to a guy driving a Lamborghini, we're in completely different parts. He's been working for years probably, and I'm at the beginning of my journey. The second thing is comparing my worrying about what other people think of me. And as my mum would say, what other people think of you is none of your business. And when you think about that, life is a breeze because you don't have to worry anymore. So it's brilliant. Those are the two things.
Yeah, I agree with Luke totally on that point of social media. I read a book lately about, it's called Digital Minimalism, and it's all about this concept that less is more in terms of technology. And yeah, it's a very good book. I would recommend everyone read it. And yeah, I think social media definitely is a big obstacle for happiness, not just in comparing yourself to others, but if you look at the health and the mental side of it, you know, with the constant feedback loop that you get from social media is not good for your health. That ability, not only on social media, I would say, but, you know, just technology in general. And I think that, you know, being able to get everything whenever you want it also sets a really bad precedent because you become more impatient. Yeah, so I would definitely agree with Luke on that point that social media and technology as a whole is a big contributor to stopping happiness.
I definitely agree, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate because as someone who has my own business, I actually use social media as a tool. And that is one of the only ways that I'm able to reach my target audience, which is teenagers. And so although social media does have a incredibly terrible negative aspect to our mental health, I think that if it's used correctly and if it's used positively, then we can use it to create change, to raise awareness about topics, just to be such a great resource for us to use. And unfortunately, that's the part which is kind of really sad to see that it's being abused, it's being neglected, it's being changed in a way, especially for teenagers who are so young, to impact their mental health.
Yeah, that's a
I
great
agree
point,
with
Sanjana. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I agree with Sanjana how she said that it's based on how we teenagers use social media, because like it's if you example, if you go on social media and you want to search up educational things, then on the algorithm will show educational content. But then if you decide to see something that you don't want to see, then on the algorithm it will show things that you don't want to see, right? And some other things that get in the way for boys' happiness are peer pressure, bullying, and racial stereotypes. And some examples are like when boys are being pressured by peers to do things that they don't believe in. So to like fit in groups, such as peers asking boys to be violent so that the boys could prove their peers that they're tough, even if that's something they don't believe in, which gets in the way of their happiness. Furthermore, boys in school get racial stereotype comments, which makes them afraid to be who they are and start hiding information about their culture and being excluded in certain activities in school. And them feeling this way gets in the way of happiness since they can't be true to their identity.
Yes, I mean, going back on Sanjana real quick. So that's a really good point, definitely, because social media does have a lot of really good benefits. There's this concept called new economics that was popularized by Henry David Thoreau quite a while ago. And basically, he did this experiment. It's a little complicated, so I don't know too much about it, but the entire theory of it is that he studied these farmers in Concord, the 1800s. And essentially they were farming, 5 days. But most of the returns, 90% of their profits were happening on the Monday. That is the Monday had enough food to, keep them alive. But they worked all 4 other days. And the theory was that the more they work, the more profit they have, the more money they have, the better things they can get. But because all of the great returns were centered on one day, that 4 other days really only gave them enough money to buy better curtains at most, maybe to buy a new water bottle. And his entire theory is that we should measure the profits in the context of the loss, in context of the measure of time. So for example, if I make $300, but it takes me 50 hours to make $300, I mean, I'm still making $300, but it's not really worth that time anymore because it took 50 hours of my life. And that same can be said for social media, how while social media does have many benefits, those benefits are really small in comparison to the amount of time most people spend on it in general. So while, you know, there's 10 minutes of posting a day, there's more business for, you know, the average person. I don't know that as a stat, but I would, you know, say as common sense, there's also 50 minutes in addition that is spent more scrolling. So when measured in the context of how much time it spends, the author makes the argument that it really isn't worth it anymore, even in terms of business.
I can see what you're saying, Ben, and where you're going with that. And I think that all of you have really brought forward points so far that really emphasize the importance of context, right? Emphasize the importance of looking at things. Really, anything could be used for good or evil, so to speak, right? And so you make very valid points around the pros and cons of social media, which really, when we're talking about happiness and we're talking about finding balance, you can go one way or another, up and down. Does that make sense? So absolutely practical ways, healthy ways that we can use social media, such as right now, especially to be able to have a forum like this, to be able to have an open and safe conversation about things that youth are facing. You know, when I was your age, which might seem like a really long time ago, it wasn't too long ago, but we didn't have this ability. Okay, we didn't have the ability to go online to immediately connect to people. And certainly we're noticing, I think, in the pandemic and even the things that you guys described in terms of general happiness for yourselves and others, one of the key themes there really kind of, you know, really shining a light to me was connection to the people that you love, connection to the areas of interest that you have in your life, connection to the things you want to learn more about. You know, and social media can certainly provide a really good platform for that. On the other hand of that, of course, it could be too much sometimes, right? And we run into issues around what Sean was discussing around bullying, people feeling that their identity is compromised or being even attacked. And social media can be a platform for those things as well. So really great discussion so far, you guys. And I'm wondering now, because you've offered so much from yourselves, if you could think about what we've discussed so far around things that you think that kind of the adults could be thinking about in order to help kids of your age with this kind of thing. What comes to mind around that in terms of thinking what advice you think would be helpful for adults to keep in mind?
So what I'd suggest to another parent is to go and take meaningful steps to help achieve your youth's goals. Sit down with them, see what they want to achieve in life. And, you know, it's always good to say goals are being a kid, being a boy, teenage boy, we like cars. So they might say, oh, I want to get a Lamborghini, but sit down and say, what are 3 things that we can do today together to get to the next step? What 3 things can I do today to be successful? And that really breaks it down from a Lamborghini to 3 things that will push you along. And like Ben said, you know, every single day, if the world ended tomorrow, I'd still plant an apple tree today. And that's just taking it to the next step every day, every day, every day. Because I've got lost in the sauce, as you say. You know, I want to achieve all these big dreams, but when you really break it down, and especially with the support of such a role model like a parent, that changes the world for a teen like me. My dad, he's in this discussion, and he's really helped me out with that, and that's what I found really supportive.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally agree with Luke. I mean, in order to achieve those goals, you need 1, the support, and 2, kind of the tools to, you know, find those goals and succeed in achieving them.
I agree. And I think that the support about the goals also starts really, really small. And it starts with one conversation between a parent and a teenager, because teenagers are known to, be distant from their parents, be in their room all day. And I think that it is the teenager's responsibility, but it's also the parent's responsibility to continue checking in on the teenager, regardless of how much they try to shut them out, because I think that connection is what gets weaker and weaker as you grow up, as you distant from your parents. And so keeping that connection with just simple conversations and checking in, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Maybe not the same as when they were a kid, when you could just, hug them and hold them in your hands, but just a conversation to treat them like adults and kind of allow them to have their own choices, to make their own choices, whether that comes to careers, what they want to do just on the daily basis, and what their interests are, because I think that's also a huge problem that teenagers face. That is the parents' pressure on them in doing a career of the parents' choice, or making them do a hobby that they don't really want to do. And the bottom line is that if you're doing something that you don't want to do, that's been forced on you, you're not going to do well and you're not going to enjoy it. And so I think that connection will really, really help the parent while also having the teenager do what they love in alignment.
Yeah, I agree. But not only parents, I mean, in schools, I've noticed that a lot of different kids, like say I'm in grade 7, there's like grade 12 people, they act as role models. And in order to get those, like I was saying, those tools to succeed in life, I reckon that you need to find those right role models, like mentors, parents, all those people are the people who can support you through these goals in life.
Yeah, I mean, those are all definitely great points. I think like a common factor between all of them, to like summarize it, would be having a good environment, raising your kids in a good environment. Because that could go from what Alex said and having good mentors around them, to what Luke said in having supporting them. And because a lot of studies show that there's two things that determine the personality and in terms of success of kids, which is environment and genetics. Now, genetics, you can't really do much to change your genetics. So I would focus it on environment. And I think definitely setting up an environment, like Luke said, where you're always supporting them, like Sanjana said, where you're helping them find their passions, not forcing them to do these things, is much more effective than forcing them to do certain things. A lot of of course, parents want the best for their child, and they have their life kind of planned out, but they're much more likely to actually reach that goal if you raise them in an environment, once again, that supports them, that helps them find their passions, that helps them find mentors. They're much more likely to reach that goal than if you just keep telling them, do this, do this, do this. Yeah.
I like the fact that you guys are, encouraging growth outside of parents. And why I bring that up, guys, is because, speaking from experience, of course, yes, parenting is a tough job sometimes, and it's the best job so far in my life I've ever had. And sometimes I'm really happy you mentioned that. My girls, they probably would roll their eyes right now, but doing those check-ins really do seem to make a difference, and they do help, even if they're silly or they're serious. They'll say, "Oh, mom, you're such a weirdie, you're such a weirdo," and I just tell them, having a weird mom, well, hopefully that builds some character in them, and and we won't regret it later down the road. But I'm thinking about youth today too, that don't always have the best support system, that don't always have a home environment that they can necessarily pull from, the blessings that probably our panel and myself know that we have. So when you bring forward, mentioning, have some empowerment in yourself. Who's important to you? A mentor, someone older than you, somebody at school, a teacher, a coach, or even, I know for me growing up as a teenager, I was really grateful to have the relationship I did with my best friend's mom, and vice versa. My mom was forever having friends of mine reach out to her when they were just so frustrated and not knowing what to do, right? So excellent, guys. Thank you very much for broadening that for people to think about. The language that you guys are using is just so inspiring to me and very impressive. And one word that sticks out for me is alignment. You're beautifully discussing what alignment means for kids today. We've talked a little bit about the struggles and also what parents, maybe adults, can do to help support youth in those struggles and finding some alignment, finding some happiness. Any more thoughts coming to mind for any of you from our discussion so far?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you know how you said that they might not have that support system from their home or even from their school sometimes that happens to be the case. And I think going back to our point about social media and using it as a tool, that is such a new concept that generations before us never had. And so for me, for my friends, you have those YouTubers or you have those inspiring TikTokers or those motivational online coaches that are such a resource for us these days that we don't even know it. And just the simple, YouTube video about another teen who's also going the same thing as you, or someone who's, an inspirational speaker like Tony Robbins, or someone who just uplifts everyone everywhere they go is so inspiring to just watch on a screen. And that can really impact you. That can really help you through your problems, even if you don't have another support system.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up because we made a little joke before we came online when Sivam asked you guys about what types of social media platforms you guys are linked to and are using actively. And my girls always tease me that Facebook is for older people such as their mom. So kind of also geeked about the fact that you guys all use that as well. But what it brought me to, guys, is I'm wondering if you could each take a minute to really think about and comment on, in the best of your ability, about what youth and boys, what might be most misunderstood about them in today's society.
Well, what I think that that are misunderstood about boys is that they think that the teenage boys today are bullies and they waste time playing video games and they aren't that smart, which I totally think is really wrong, because this is another huge reason that gets in the way of boys' happiness, of this misunderstanding and making assumptions. And what I think is that boys are not bullies and they don't waste time playing video games. And every teenage boy is smart. They might not be smart in studies, but in other things such as arts and crafts, playing sports, dancing, acting, etc. I could keep on going on. But every boy is smart in their own unique way, and that makes them different. And actually, this is why we're all different, because we're all good at something and not just one thing. We can't put an assumption that everyone's the same, but we're all unique in our own way.
Yeah, exactly. Like what you were saying, Sean, like a lot of boys are given labels, and that's actually what's stopping them from, like what we were saying before, achieving those goals, but from being good studies. Like a lot of these labels are actually limiting their beliefs.
You guys are doing a beautiful job at connecting our discussion. So proud of you and proud to be part of this discussion. I think that you touch on some very important points, because there are a lot of stereotypes, aren't there? Especially for boys. And there are a lot of assumptions out there around what is masculine and the expectations that society can put on young men today. And I think it's very important that you guys are looking at that and in a way that is trying to, not just break the stereotypes, but hopefully get rid of them, right? Making things not just understood. As a friend of mine, River, has helped me learn, it's not about just understanding, it's also about accepting. Does that make sense to you guys? Any thoughts around that sort of thing?
I definitely agree. And I think as a girl, I've seen, my guy friends, my cousins also go through this and like go through the struggle of just, people assuming that they're a certain way, people kind of putting this label on them, like we talked about. And it's taken them a while to adjust to it. But I think that this adjusting shouldn't be happening because I don't think the label should be there in the first place. And I think that going backwards and kind of making ourselves think about what we assume a guy will be based on, what group they hang around or something like that. Although there is those instances where the boys may like be influenced by their friends, I think it's really, really important to look at every boy individually.
Excellent points for sure. And I'm glad that you've offered that perspective. I hope that it's helpful for young men to hear from the female voice about what we hope for you and what we would like to do to help move those stereotypes, move people from looking at someone in a specific way to a unique way, because it's very different, isn't it? So that's a nice segue too, guys, into talking about self-esteem and identity. For anyone really. What are your thoughts around where those kinds of things come from?
So my self-esteem has come from my mentors, like my dad. And when I was living in Australia, also I had a business mentor. He's the biggest watch wholesaler in all of Australia, and he taught me what it takes to be successful, the manners he used, and I tried to take some of those traits from the people I look to, like my business mentors, my dad, and other successful people that I've met, and I try to match that so I can be my best self. But nowadays, I see a lot of my friends taking traits from people who they look up to, especially on social media and TikTok. Nowadays, you just swipe, and you never know what's going to come up. And sometimes you see something controversial and you're like, oh, do I like that? Or do I not like that? And that kind of tricks their brains into thinking what is right and what is wrong. And this can come up with some controversial characters and people swaying into not so good role models, and that's where a lot of these self-esteem changes, because they're seeing all these people on social media, people doing naughty things that they might think are cool, and they're like, yeah, I want to do that. And that's where some self-esteem comes from.
Other thoughts, guys, on self-esteem and pulling from where you pull your identity from?
I mean, I don't have too much to add. I agree with Sanjana and Luke a lot. And TikTok, being able to see people you look up to, I think is very useful. Yeah.
This is the TikTok. Maybe we could talk a few minutes about that because it does seem to be a highly influential social media app that youth today are using. Am I right in that? Okay. I will often, tease my girls that I'm going to get myself an account, which I haven't followed through with, to save them some embarrassment.
Don't do it.
And as a parent, though, I will tell you, my girls are 11 and 15, and my stepchildren are older, but certainly no strangers to social media. And actually, they've helped me understand a lot of things about the different apps that are available to kids. And I find that they're all very protective of the 11-year-old, which she's starting to feel a little bit suffocated on. But in terms of the TikTok and as you say, the scrolling and the instant messaging that's happening, how influential would you say those things are for youth to actually take it from, hey, whoa, check this out, or I share this with my friend, or I make my own TikTok, to actually like meaningful behavior changes? Do you understand what I'm asking? Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. Do you want to go?
Yeah,
go. Okay, you go.
So there's been studies shown that every single year our attention span drops, and now where our attention span average is at 8 seconds. We can hold our attention for 8 seconds on average, and a goldfish's is at 12 seconds. So our attention span is less than a goldfish. And this is from that instant gratification, that dopamine rush. Every time you see a new video, this just spikes. It's worse than a casino. And it just spikes your dopamine every time you swipe. Oh, I don't like this video, let's go to the next. And you just end up sitting there for hours and hours just trying to get that dopamine hit again and again and again. And the kind of videos you can come across is absolutely crazy. The stuff that is on there is not regulated, and it's actually quite dangerous, I think, in my opinion. So it's lowering our attention spans, and it's of course you get the good ones, like people giving you motivational tips and how to improve your day every day, 5 steps, etc. Some entertainment on there, but there's whole different sides of stuff. And when you like something, or when you watch something for a bit longer because it's a bit controversial, you want to see what they're up to, it just feeds you more of those videos. So it's a trap, really. And the stuff that can happen in your subconscious, say there's a trend to try out this food, that's like the best marketing you can have in the world, because they're putting it into your subconscious, and then you go to the shop and you're like, oh, I've seen that from social media, but it's a controversial item, let's go get it. And it's so dangerous, these kind of things, because you don't even realize what's happening. It's in your subconscious. And all of these traits that you see, people acting in a certain way to get more likes, which is not appropriate, that constantly, every time you see that, it plays on your subconscious. And
sorry to interrupt, but to build off of that, I'm wondering if you guys could help us, from your perspective, learn things from you. I'm learning a ton. Can't say I'm excited about having an attention span that's less than a goldfish. That's some worrisome statistics, but it's telling, isn't it? Right, where things have gone. So what are some things that you guys do in your own lives, or things that you would suggest to kids, teenagers, that are kind of falling into those traps to kind of pull themselves out?
Yeah, I mean, so me, I found that a lot of my life did revolve around social media. I don't think it's as bad as others. I never used TikTok before, but I was pretty active on Instagram. I was very active on Twitter for a while. LinkedIn, not so much, but recently I did have to go on Facebook to do some stuff for business. But I found myself, spending maybe an hour a day on social media, which I don't think is terrible. But still, when you look at it in perspective, it's what, 7 hours a week, 7 hours a week. It's what, 28 hours a month. You're spending almost 12 days a year on these social media sites. And I do have to use it for business sometimes, but you're only really spending maybe 5 minutes a day is all you really need for business. And so basically everything else in my life and social media was unnecessary, as people would deem it. And so I think that I would suggest all teenagers to try out this thing called the digital detox. And you might have heard of it, but it basically helps reset your dopamine from these things like Instagram, YouTube, because those give you unnatural amounts of dopamine through the instant feedback system, like Luke said about, endless scrolling, likes, comments. They contribute to your dopamine in levels that are much higher than anything that's been seen in history. And that also is why most kids and teenagers' attention span is so low, is because before dopamine, reading a book gives you this much, playing outside gives you this much, maybe, I don't know, sitting down gives you this much, but they're still all relatively low. But now comes along social media. And whereas maybe the greatest dopamine before 20th century was, I don't know, going to a movie theater, which was this much, now social media every single second gives you this much. So so once you're, starting to get addicted, which, most people do on social media, it now becomes everything else is considered very, very unentertaining. And so my tips for kids and teenagers who don't want to fall in this trap is to take a stand and do this digital detox for 30 days. It's going to be very difficult because you are changing your brain. but it'll reset your dopamine levels. And the idea is that you never have to go back to social media ever again because you won't feel the need to.
Yeah, like,
Sorry, go
there you
ahead.
go.
Go ahead, Sanjana. Yep.
Okay, it'll be really short, I promise. So just adding on to what Benjamin was saying, I definitely agree that a digital detox can be so, so helpful. Even just for a week, if you just decide to, tune out all of that noise and just leave it aside and focus on your work, focus on your family, focus on your friends, it'll be life-changing. And for me, what I do is, since I own a business, I have to be on social media and I use it as a resource, as a tool. But what I like to do is I like to make sure that I'm also doing those things that have lower dopamine levels at the same level. So for example, buying a book that I'm really, really excited about to read. And it could be really simple things like a book or a puzzle. Me and my brother just started doing a really fun puzzle, 1,000 pieces. It's going to take forever, but it's kind of a time boost. It's a time, instead of scrolling on TikTok for an hour, I'm going to do the puzzle for an hour. And so it's kind of just finding those substitutions that if you are already addicted, then this is how you get out. You find substitutes for that.
Excellent. You guys, your views are just fantastic and they're very helpful. So I appreciate that. Alex, did you want to build on that at all?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the only social media I really use is for really networking, because social media can be really, really useful in terms of business, like how Ben was saying before, and how, like, you can find so many different inspirational people, like as Sanjana was saying, Tony Robbins and Gary Vee and all those different people to help you in life.
Well, and Sean, I was wondering if we could go back to a little bit earlier in the conversation and bring it to what we're discussing now around, really important things that kids do face, and around bullying or people making assumptions about their race, for example. We've talked a lot about social media and the power of that, and things that are positive, things that are negative. What do you think are some of the things that are also needed to help minimize those kinds of feelings around being bullied, being subjected to other people's criticisms or wrongful ideas about a certain person?
What I think is that, like I've seen it, is that in my middle school, there was a lot of bullying. Like you could see bullying like almost every single time when it's recess, there'll be a lot of bullying, and then there will be teachers out there. The teachers would see, but then they just would just leave it and just go away. And when students go to the principal or to the guidance counselors, they just say, okay, you know what? Okay, we'll bring the person who bullied you. And then they just suspend the bully. But then that doesn't mean that the bully will stop bullying. After suspending him, it doesn't mean he's a changed person. Maybe maybe you have to, what you have to do is asking the bully how would he feel if somebody bullied him. And yeah.
Well, I think sometimes when we're able to, what's that saying, put the shoe on the other foot, so to speak, to look at things from another person's perspective. If that kind of thing came your way, how would that make you feel, right? Or if that was something that came to someone who's very special to you, what would that bring forward in what you would want to see happen in terms of making it right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay. And so guys, any thoughts around those kinds of things? Because really the bullying, that can be rooted in a lot of things. It can be amplified over social media, not just in person. And maybe sometimes people are a little bit more direct or aggressive when there's a computer screen between them as opposed to face-to-face. What are your thoughts around just regular social behavior and what people can do when they know that cyber stuff is going on?
Yeah, I only think that preventing bullying can go so far. There's always going to be that one person who doesn't like something about you, So you just got to not take it personally. And when they say that, you either ignore it, act like they don't exist, or say, you know, yeah, actually, you look nice today as well. Thank you. You know, you look good today. Flip it on them. So don't allow it to get to you. Laugh it off. In the UK, I don't think bullying is as physical. It's more verbal. And in the end, we just laugh it off because we have built that coping mechanism, at least me. I've been in some situations like that, and I've managed to get myself out of them. And when you also compare yourself to others, like I said before, and you said, oh, I've been called, oh, Luke, you're fat. Just don't take it personally. Don't compare yourself to someone who's in better shape to you. Look at yourself a week ago. You know, if that really does mean something to you, go do something about it. And I actually went and did some weight loss, and a lot after a couple months, you know, they say it takes 6 weeks at least for people to notice. People at school were like, hey, Luke, what happened to you? You're a different person. And that really helped. So if that you do find a problem, like, break it down and just, but you know, you don't have to do that. Just don't take it personally and just give that person a compliment. Maybe it's because their day is bad. It's not an excuse to bullying, and bullying is a completely different topic. But I think people need to stop taking things so personally. Like on social media, people just go on rants for no reason, just because, like, racism is a different thing. That's unacceptable. But even when someone does that, just don't give it attention. Don't take things personally. Just make that person look silly by just ignoring them, because they want that attention. When they say something like that, it's for attention. They don't get the attention they want. And when you don't give it any energy, that person's just going to stop. They're going to give up. When they don't see a reaction, they just give up. So when someone's mean to you, just say, oh, you look great today. Nice shirt. Walk away. And that's how I've dealt with it.
Like Luke, I agree with Luke, like what Luke said, how when bullies, they mostly bully because they want attention or they just want to become famous. And when someone does bully you, you either ignore them or throw it off at them, like Luke said, like you have a nice shirt and all. Like some example is that if someone does bully you, what you want to do is if you ignore them and walk away, because if you like cry or show fear, then they would start bullying you and be like, you know what, we could bully him. Let's just keep on bullying him. He's going to keep on crying every single time. But if you just cry, if you stop crying and ignore it and just like, you know what, walk past them and like, you know what, forget it. It's not true what they're saying. Then at one point, they're going to be like, they're going to be so bored. They're going to be like, they're going to start realizing that, what am I doing? Oh, he's not paying attention. And then soon they'll try to go on to someone else. And if the same someone else stops, like if someone else stops, like ignores the bully, then soon the bully was like, stop bullying. Like another example is I have eczema, and like whenever I go to school, like kids around me would be like, oh, look at his skin. Oh, don't come near me. But then I used to like wear a long sleeve t-shirt to cover my eczema. But then at one point I realized and I asked myself, why should I cover it up? What's wrong with me? And like I thought about my friends who are always with me and they have no problem with it. So then I didn't wear a long sleeve t-shirt to cover up my eczema. I walked past those kids and those kids made the same comments, but then I ignored them and I was like, oh, okay, thanks, man. Bye. And then they were like shocked. You should have seen their faces. And then they started walking past and I was like, and then I decided that to hang out with my friends because they don't really care how I look on the outside. They just care about my personality. And that's why they like hang out with me.
Sean, I really appreciate you using your courage to give us an example of true lived experience. I feel that there's a lot of power in us sharing things that we know have impacted us or people that are close to us, to be able to deliver a message that, you know what, things don't have to be as they are. And when you're struggling, there are ways to cope with that. I'd like to know if you're comfortable answering when you mentioned about how you kind of changed your approach to it. How did that make you feel about what you were struggling with?
After I made wait, what was your question again?
About, you had mentioned how, you know what, you're like, you know what, why should I have to cover up? And the people around me who I care about and care about me are totally fine with me having eczema, right? And you made that conscious change in no longer covering up. And what did that do for you?
Actually, what I did was, so basically when they always bully me, I have that thought in my mind, like, why are they doing this? Like, don't they want, like, why do they need to say what's wrong with my skin and all, right? So then I came back home. I didn't tell my mom or dad or anything because I was like, you like like I didn't really talk about my problems a lot to them. So then I just sat in my room thinking about it, like, what can I do or what should I do? And then after that, I thought about, I have so much other friends who really, like, they're talking to me and they don't really talk about my skin or anything, they talk to me and play with me. So I was like, you know what? Why should I wear a long sleeve t-shirt to cover my eczema just because of the few kids that are bullying me? So then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna forget it. I'm not gonna wear a long sleeve t-shirt. I'm just gonna go walk right past those kids and hang out with my friends. And I don't care what others say. I'm just gonna take it from one year and leave it out the other year.
Awesome. And I think what that example for me as you're talking, and I hope for others who are listening, what that one example that might be, might seem kind of small to you in a way, it brings together all of the things that you guys have been talking today about: happiness, fulfillment, focusing on yourself and the people around you, the energy that's coming your way and what you want to do with it for yourself and what you want to give to others. Well done, Sean. And I think that's a great thing to offer to other people who are struggling, because it might not be eczema. It might be something else, right? So well done. Guys, anything you want to offer?
Can I just say
Yeah,
one more quick thing?
please
So
do.
a tip for teenagers that are listening and are to this is, when they're getting bullied, is don't listen to those bullies, because whatever they say, is it true to you? No. And you always have those friends that are with you. And so if bullies do bully you, don't like take it in depth too much. Like, just forget it, because really, if you see outside of school, you might have a lot of other friends and they don't bully you. So just because of those bullies, don't like hurt yourself too much and take nasty decisions. So that's the tip I take.
Any other tips there, guys, that you'd like to offer for everyone listening about how to handle things from your perspective when people of your age are struggling?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
well,
can I, yeah, you go.
Awesome.
yeah, cool. So especially
Awesome.
with what Sean was saying, I mean, that's how you know what friends are your real friends, right? So that's how you can tell, like, if they like you on the inside. It doesn't matter what you are on the outside. It only matters what's in here, right? So that's how I know I've got real friends, and that's just a little tip I would give to some people.
Wonderful. Sorry, I didn't hear all of your voices. Who might like to comment on another tip for those who might be struggling?
Yeah,
Luke,
so
were you
can I
going to
tell
say?
you? Yeah, so last summer I was chatting to this girl on Snapchat, and after a couple messages, she added me to this group chat with her boyfriend. I didn't know that she was going out with another guy and some other guys. They're a year younger than me, but they're all taller than me, more muscly, and they were like, "Oh, I hope your dad falls down some stairs. We're gonna beat you up next time we see you. Come down to the park, etc." And I was like, "Nah, I'm gonna get these guys back. I'm gonna do something." And then I went to my parents, and they were like, "Hey, just leave the group. Don't put attention into it." And if it wasn't for my parents, I would have got into a very sticky situation. And yeah, just go to your parents. I know Sean, you sorted it out on your own. Great job. But sometimes that isn't the case. In the UK, when people have problems, sometimes they bring knives with them. So that could have been we have a big knife problem here. So that could have been a very big problem. And my parents get me through some of these situations. And they beat up actually one of my friends. And luckily it was okay. But my parents helped me with that situation, and I got out okay. So always ask your parents, don't be afraid, open up to them, say, "This is my problem. How did you do it when you were younger?" And I came out with no scratches. So that was good. I saw it out, and now I went to the park the other day. I got some looks from them, but it was all right.
One more thing I want to add, just like as Luke said, how ask your parents and open up to them. Some teenagers sometimes might be afraid to talk to your parents. Then you might want to go and talk to someone that you trust, like maybe it must be your next door neighbor, or your friends, or sometimes you're very close with the teacher. You can talk to your teacher. So maybe it's just not talking to your parents. You might want to talk to someone that you really trust and feel comfortable talking with. And maybe they could give you a solution as well.
Excellent advice, guys. And I think too, it's we have to do a good job as adults and as youth to remember it's not always just our mental health that could be at risk, as you've pointed out, right? It could be our physical safety that is at risk. And to be able to run that by somebody that you trust that might be able to say, hey, let's put the brakes on, take a breath, let's think it through. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about, that 24-hour rule, right? Just give yourself some time to cool down and think things through before you figure out what the next step is. And those are great examples, guys, that you have offered for people listening to really, keep in the back of their mind for when they're struggling. And I also would like to take the opportunity to commend all of you this evening on the peer support that you're offering to one another on the panel, and how that translates to the audience that we have listening. And some of the comments I've noticed in the chat on the side, people are just thrilled with your conversation, with the things that you're offering, loving all of the contributions, great job, amazing conversation happening. What else is going on here? One user from Facebook that has joined us has said, I've had a few teens that I work with that have done the social media detox for 6 months and have seen a huge benefit. So the things that you're sharing too, guys, are really relevant. People are relating to them. I don't want to speak for Sivam, but I know prior to coming on and talking about one of the goals that he has overall is really connecting people of all ages, and letting them be able to relate to different conversations that are very real for people in their everyday life. Another person here, impressive group of participants, so well done, you guys. There is a question here, so I want to make sure that that we try and answer those as well as they come in. And someone is asking the youth panel, and I think this goes back to when we were talking about social media apps, the TikTok, the scrolling, the attention span of us versus the goldfish. How do you overcome that subconscious issue? So around this social media, how can youth overcome that subconscious issue?
Yeah, so social media was built to combat that issue, or I guess the opposite to combat. It was to create that issue of tricking your brain. That's the only reason why it's built. That's the only way they make money. I always say, as a general rule of thumb, that if you're really worried about that, maybe like one part of it, which is streaming, don't watch YouTube. Of course, there's good content on YouTube, like inspirational videos, but YouTube only makes money the more you watch. If you want to watch something, I would recommend watching Netflix, Disney Plus, because those platforms don't make money the more you watch. They don't really care how much you watch. So I think the biggest thing to avoiding the subconscious issue, if you still want to use social media, is to use social media that don't benefit from you using it more. So I don't know, I don't think it's considered social media, but I would stay away from YouTube, use Netflix or Disney Plus instead. I would, and if you go to Instagram and Facebook, it's very difficult to overcome the subconscious issue because it is built into the system. Like the entire thing is about that. So if you're really worried about that not being tricked, your mind, just stay off it.
Fair enough. Good advice for sure. Any other quick thoughts around that piece, around that kind of, I know that is a discussion in my household at times where, we might sit down to play that family board game you guys mentioned, or just, dial into the Disney Plus and check out a movie, but then, and the adults are guilty for it too, right? Look what's right here. That's scrolling. And you become, you're in 2 places at once, but then you're in 6 places at once. So what are some suggestions you guys can have around youth just wanting to be connected and helping them understand it's okay to put it down for a little while?
I can actually add something here. I just want to thank Sean and Luke for sharing your stories, because I think that takes a lot of courage to speak about your own experience, especially with a topic like bullying on appearances. I think that's a really heavy thing to talk about. So I just want to thank you before I go into my next point. And then what I'm going to say is that I really encourage you to watch a movie called The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. It's on a bunch of streaming services, and it's called The Social Dilemma. And I think this movie really opened up my eyes to see, why is technology bad for us in a totally different perspective. Because one of the things that they talk about is that, like Ben said, the social medias are created to fight for our attention. Like Facebook is fighting, Instagram is fighting, Twitter, YouTube, they're all fighting for our attention. And the more we give it is the more they're profiting from us. And so one tip I have that was also mentioned in the document is to kind of take a moment. If you're answering your friend, you can answer them, yes. But then as soon as you click off the chat, it's going to show you something recommended or suggested or, tailored to your likings. And so instead of that addictive action of scrolling, just put it down. The second you answer your friend, you put it down. Don't keep scrolling. Don't go to that suggested button, no matter how tempting it is. And I found myself doing this, and it makes just the hugest difference because I feel so much more in control. Because at times, it seems like social media is taking over your life. And, there are helpful parts of it. Like, for example, a really simple example is on TikTok, I saw this Starbucks order. And I took the order and I ordered that. And I said, oh my gosh, TikTok is literally changing my spending habits. I ordered this $7 drink versus a $4 drink, which I would normally get, just because I watched this 8-second TikTok video. And so I think just putting it down, stopping that scrolling feature is just really helpful.
Great, great, great advice. And also I like how you brought in another impact, right? Not just to mental health, not to physical safety, but also to your financial health, right? And these are the things that, I find that youth are beginning to understand better, and you're moving into another stage of independence where your financial health is starting to really matter. So well done. Excellent connection that you've made there as well, because as we all know, finances, spending money, planning for, that Lamborghini you want to buy, or if you're going on to school after high school, or even something as, I want to have a steak this Friday night too, right? You have to learn how to budget for things. So well done. I think that this has been a fantastic discussion. I'm watching the time and we're at about 8:15. I can't believe it. I could talk to you guys all night. You can probably tell I get a little bit geeked out by these kinds of things, and that's okay with me. I just want to double check here for comments to offer to you guys as well. Someone is mentioning to us, glad to have attended this one. A lot of great information. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for this discussion, much needed, great job. From someone else, so proud of all of these amazing youth setting a great example to others. And if I may say, take the liberty, not just youth, but to adults as well. I've learned a lot this evening too. And I think to wrap up our discussion, guys, if we could kind of just go back a little bit to the questions that we had talked about prior to coming online, because you've done a beautiful job about speaking in general about the happiness of youth today, some of the things that specifically boys struggle with, but also all youth are struggling with, and ways to, tackle those kinds of things. And I'm just wondering too, if before we, wrap things up, if you could talk a little bit about an issue that might be going on in our world today that holds a lot of importance either for yourself or that you view other youth as seeming more important that maybe adults don't quite give them enough credit for.
An issue that I see that's going on in our world, I personally believe, is a lack of respect, and that everyone is facing recently. The absence of respect often leads to like conflicts of individuals, families, and more widely to society. It also like highly demotivates people, creating fear, anger, shame, confusion, uncertainty, and many more. I believe that respect can create individual self-esteem, and they also contribute to positive feelings and actions towards one another. It can also conveys one valuable quality, such as I would include cultures, individual opinions, feelings, society contribution. And now you must be wondering what I mean by like society contribution. So like society contribution is like, I feel like nowadays, due to the lack of respect, many societies don't come outside to contribute their opinion and value to others. But if we respect them, we can all come together as one and achieve many things as one.
Sorry, I muted myself. I say absolutely. That was very well said. And one of the things going through my mind as you know, you guys are sharing your insight are just so many other things that we'll be able to talk about in the future. You know, this has been just such an amazing discussion. Guys, who else might have something they'd like to offer around things that are important to youth right now?
Yeah, so one of the main things that I think is an issue is equal opportunity. So if I've lived in a few countries around the world. Right now, I'm in England. I've lived in Sydney, Australia. I've lived in Washington for a bit, Florida, and also my parents are from Zimbabwe in Africa, and the unemployment rate there is 98%. And if some of the Zimbabweans could have had nearly the kind of opportunities that I've been able to have, like this discussion that we're in right now, they would be able to change their village, their families' lives forever by just having the exposure to display their brand and having equal opportunity. This is actually one of the reasons why I've partnered with Alex here in the discussion, is so that we can teach youth all around the world touch as many youth's lives as possible and help them to truly level up for success, and help them get mentors, because something that I have really benefited of is having successful mentors in my life to help me get through those hard times. And that's what me and Alex are trying to do with our new organization. We're trying to help kids level up for success and get equal opportunity, most importantly.
I love that, leveling up for success. That's awesome. And as you were talking, Luke, it brought me back to, I'm so nervous to say your name. It's so beautiful. I don't want to wreck it. Say it for me, honey.
Sanjana.
Thank you. About when we were talking about bringing things forward, and you had mentioned one phrase that it really starts with one conversation, doesn't it? And the fact that you guys are coming from Western world countries, you know, to recognize that we do have many things that that other countries do not. And with one conversation, it could really spark a lot of change that you guys are talking about and things that you desire, which is just very inspiring and gives me as an adult some hope to hear about our youth. And I'm curious, and I say I am, but Sivam might have volunteered me to kind of throw a little twist here, guys. Do any of you have a question for one another? Is there anything that we've been discussing tonight that you're curious about from somebody else? And just when you answer, if you could remind our audience what corner of the world you're coming from, okay? Any questions, guys?
Sure, I'd love to ask Luke and Alex more about their business. Like, what is the goal? What do you aim to get out of it?
Go on, Alex.
Okay, so we aim to get mentors on calls exactly like this to help kids through their struggles to level up for success. So actually, just behind me here is our logo. So we actually, so we get mentors on from all across the world. Right now, we're mainly focusing on kid mentors because we believe that kids can make a difference, and that through these mentoring groups, we can actually help these kids go through life and make a difference just as we did. and succeed in life?
Yeah, and we're currently working on a number of programs, just so, as I said, equal opportunity. We have an Entrepreneurs Book Club for age groups running from 9 to 18, where Alex's sister will be running no, I actually think it's 7 to 9. Alex will be running 10 to 13, and I'll be running 14 to 18. And this is because loads of our mentors and other successful entrepreneurs and businessmen have really credited books as changing their lives. And that's one of our programs. We also have the Successful Startup Program, which is going through everything that a kid needs to start their own business, or just be successful in whatever they want to do. If they want to be play football or be an entrepreneur, we're helping them being able to launch their first product and just get their plan together so that they're ready for investment or just be successful. And we also have the Big Maps to Success program, where we create other programs with mentors. Say we had a program with a specialist investor, we'd create a course around investing and a real estate mentor, etc. And it's all around equal opportunity, and that's our goal.
Fantastic. That was a great question. I'm glad you brought that forward, and well done, guys. Wow. And something you're starting now that is definitely a need, and hopefully will take you all into the future. This is amazing to learn about. I wonder if you could put in the chat dialogue there a link for people to access.
Yeah, great. I'll put the URL in.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then two, who else has a business at this young age on the panel? Okay, guys, let's take a little bit of time to hear about that, and we will we'll wrap up. Okay.
Benjamin, you can go first.
Oh, very kind. Go ahead, Ben.
Yes, I have a number of different ventures. I started with I have a podcast called the Kids CEO Podcast, where I interview a lot of really amazing kids. And I also kind of took that and created the Kids CEO Summit. And that happened in February. And we had 50 really ambitious and curious kids who all came with the mission of, getting inspired, getting more knowledge, to create their own businesses. And I brought some of colleagues of mine that are some really big kid entrepreneurs and philanthropists to come speak, to come host workshops. It wasn't a Zoom call, it was a full conference, a digital conference. So there was different tables they could go to. Alex, Luke were both there. Yeah, Alex and Luke were both there. And yeah, it was a really great experience. I think Luke, Alex, yeah, they won one of the contests that had some graphic design, which is what they used to create the logo. And I also, from there, am creating a new podcast I'm doing in collaboration with a couple brothers that I met through the show. And it's called the Young Chep Podcast. And I'm going to be interviewing more kid entrepreneurs, but also some really big adult entrepreneurs like Evan Carmichael, to have them on the show and talking about everything they do to a kid's perspective and helping kids, change their lifestyle. A lot of things I talked about today, like, digital minimalism, and getting them ready to create their own business, whether it's that, whether it's, like Luke said, wanting to be, a football player, whatever it is, getting them ready for tomorrow.
Oh, sorry. Fantastic endeavors. So will you also put your connections in the chat so people can check that out at their leisure? Thanks, Ben. Okay.
Wow, look at you. You have your own website. That's so cool. I was also at the summit. It was so fun. So I definitely recommend you guys to check out his podcast. For all the viewers watching, amazing, amazing. I love the way he speaks. I'm sure you saw in the interview, like he's so eloquent. But yeah, so I'm Sinjana. I have my own clothing company called Pluto Collectives. And people really call me crazy for starting it. Because me and my friend, it started off as a quarantine project. And people used to call us crazy because they're like, you're starting a business in the middle of a pandemic. How is this going to work? Why is this going to work? And why are you doing it now? And it was because me and my friend had always been passionate about business, and we'd been passionate about fashion. And then with nothing to do, because school was on a pause, It was almost summer with nothing at all to do. We were like, why not just start a business? But we wanted to start it for a reason. And a really huge problem that we saw teenagers struggling with was kind of their mental health, and also kind of trying to fit in with their household. Sometimes it wasn't the best scenario at home, and so kind of providing that platform for them was our main intention in starting our business. And so it was such a magical moment in that summer to start our own business and to start selling clothes, now we do jewelry. And so it's been such a wonderful experience. And all throughout that, we've been able to donate 10% of our profits to a Canadian Mental Health Association, which helps towards mental health initiatives. And we're always, spreading mental health awareness and talking to teens and being a platform for those teens who are going through those problems. And just owning a business as a teen is so amazing. It's so empowering. And I really recommend any teenagers watching to do their own business. Because something like fashion was so out of my league, and I thought it was so, just out there. I never thought I would have my own clothing company. And now it's been almost a year and we're making so many sales. Today we got our first United Kingdom order. So we're international. So thank you to Rich Mullins. He's actually here. And so I really am so grateful for each and every one of our customers. And yeah, thank you guys.
Wonderful. Be sure to put your information in the chat. Well done. Holy mackerel. That is, it's just amazing. Very inspiring. All of you. I'm just going to be reeling from this discussion for a few days, I think. I want to make sure that I don't leave any of the comments or any questions that we have out there in the audience in the next few minutes before we sign off and say goodbye. Actually, my Nana used to say, don't say goodbye, say until we see you next time, right? So I look forward to that as well. So in our comments, we've got, let's see here. Okay, wow, your perspectives make our future bright, more self, human, and nature connections for true happiness. Well done. What else? Oh, we have from an Indigenous children's author here in Canada. She says, so proud, so proud. Keep it up, boys and girls. Yeah, and people asking for you to please share any of your links for people to access going forward. Wonderful work. You guys are awesome. Great job to all tonight. And I cannot echo those sentiments enough. And I can tell from the look on Sivam's face, he is very pleased with all of you. So I'm going to ask you one.
I think you're.
Oh, I just muted myself. Haha. Sorry, guys. I'm going to ask you one last question so that we can kind of pull everything together and say goodnight to our audience. So let me see. I have to cheat again and make sure. Okay. So from everything we've discussed, and guys, it's been an hour and a half. This has been amazing. It's flown by, which means it was rich in your discussion, and obviously you've had a fantastic impact, and we cannot thank you enough for that. So if there's one thing that you would like the audience to take away from tonight's discussion, what would it be? Aha, I stumped you. Have I stumped you?
I've got one.
Oh, okay, Alex.
So what I've noticed is that a lot of kids are actually afraid of failure. And being afraid of failure is actually, being afraid of failure stops growth, because I see failure as my first attempt in learning. And through the failure, I always learn through my failure. So really, don't carry your kids. Don't stop them from failing, because if they fail, they'll eventually learn to pick themselves up and over again. So really, just, that's my advice. And yeah.
Well said. Great acronym. I got it. So failure, is that, did I catch that? So let's repeat it. First attempt in learning. Excellent. Way to put a positive twist on something that we would normally look at as negative. Anybody else would like to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, just don't take things personally. Rub it off. Hey.
Sean, any words that you can think of, something you would really like people to take away from this evening?
As a conclusion, I would say that nowadays teenagers are becoming more independent and focusing on opinions. So I feel the connectivity of parents is very important and the development of young teenagers nowadays. So two main terms that I feel that are really important and I think are the basic rules of life is empathy and respect. And if we uphold these rules, the world will be a better place for all of us. And I just want to let the teenagers out there know that and watching are that your values don't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. And last but not least, I would like to end it off with two quotes, inspirational quotes. The first one is, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. And then the second one is, never look down on anybody unless you're helping them up.
Beautiful, beautiful and genuine and true. Thank you very much, Sean, for that contribution. Okay. Anyone else for some last thoughts of what we might like to take away from?
Sure, I can say one thing that I think you should do before this day ends. So I don't know what time it is for everyone watching, but good night, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is. I want you to reach out to a friend, if that's social media, if that's just on text, if that's in real life, to your mom or your dad or your kid, just make them laugh. That's one thing I dare you to do because I think that we need more laughter, and laughter is the best medicine. And with everything going on, the pandemic, whatever the issues that you want to think about, just let that go. And I dare you to make them laugh. If you can do that, good job.
My day's just started. It's 1:30 a.m. I think
1:30
everyone's asleep.
a.m.
Yeah.
Oh no, you need to get to bed, mister. Thank you for kind of rescheduling your day to accommodate us here on the other side of the world.
Just needed a coffee, late night coffee. Sorted everything out.
Well, just a couple of other comments, guys. Great job to all tonight. Great to hear all of you. We are very proud. Ben, any final words you'd like to offer to say for anybody taking away a special message?
Yeah, I mean, for teens, you just gotta make use of every opportunity you get. This thing I love to preach. You might not see it as opportunity, but you have to, see things clearly and filter through the opportunities and just, take them. Don't worry so much about. There's a quote that there's always a million reasons not to do something. There's always only one reason to actually do it. And so, say yes more. Say yes to everything, or say yes to most things that come your way. Experiment, fail a little bit. That's my best advice.
Awesome. Just awesome, guys. I recently heard somebody from inspirational point of view. Her name is Danielle Amos, and she said, you really can be, do, and have all that you desire. And I think that this panel has just been a beautiful example of that, and bringing everything together, helping youth of today understand that, you know what, we are struggling. Everyone does, but there are ways to cope with that, ways for you to shine. And you guys certainly did this evening. So I thank you very much for that. I hope I will see you guys again. Our paths will cross. Your journeys are very exciting, and I know that our audience has been thrilled. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Sivam to say goodnight and sign us off, okay?
Awesome. I just wanted to say thank you so much for hosting and connecting every one of our thoughts together. And thank you, Shivam, for hosting this. It was such a wonderful opportunity. And I'm so excited to get to know everyone else on this panel and our audience. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. It was my pleasure. Thank you for those kind words. Okay, Sivam, your turn. I'm going on mute.
Oh man, what can I say? What else I can say? What else you can ask for? I'm so happy and pleased. This is it's not easy. Especially I was hoping, or I was planning for a long time, couple of months. But since we have that, the what do you call, the March break, everything is moving, and then so we don't know when we want to do it. But this is absolutely amazing. So thank you, all of you guys, though. I know especially Luke and Alexa, you guys on the next day, Sunday, but still you guys waking and then you are doing so much things. So whoever behind this scene is not only me, but the most of the people, like your parents, everybody, every single one of you guys, though, especially Kristen. I asked her in the last minute to host it. So we have to do more and more of these because when we hear, it's not only for kids or children, but all of us. We are going through the same situation, same life situation right now. But at least if we can save one life, change one mindset, that's all enough. We can do more than that. That's what I want to say. And thanks, is my special thanks to every one of you guys, though, because I don't know any of you guys. To be honest, I don't know any of you, but the people whoever actually helped me to get over here, get all of you guys here. It's amazing. We within 2-3 days we set up everything, though. Right now here, like Sanjana was saying, last year you don't know what to do. Same thing. I didn't know what to do. I was talking to Kristen earlier today. Around May, June, I didn't know what to do. So this is born about 1 year or so, 6-7 months ago. Right now we are doing so many panel discussion and things like that. So at least if you can do more, of course, you guys giving so much energy to this platform. So I really, I'm happy. There's no words to explain, but believe me, believe me, because in the last minute, everything is going so smooth. And then, I really appreciate all of you guys. So quickly, I have few announcements to share with all of you who are watching. We do have 4 different live shows weekly. One is Open Up, sharing your personal life journey. Live talk show is on every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Weekly webinar on Saturdays from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. And Billy, there are 2 different shows in Tamil language, and also it's on Wednesday 7:30 p.m. and Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and panel discussion. Once a month, we have 2, one in English, one in Tamil. And also we recently started podcast. That's also we do English and Tamil too. And we have a monthly men's group meeting. This is we finished 3rd month, and then we're going for 4th month. On 3rd Sunday every month, each month, 3rd Sunday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Going back to any kind of any shows or any live shows, any events that we are hosting, there's no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or anything. Anyone can, any walk of life can join and share your life journey. And next monthly meeting will be on April 18th from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. The topic will be announced later on. And also what we have is we are looking for new members, volunteers to join at our organization Voice of Men 360. And also, like I said, there are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. And also, we would like to work with individuals, professionals, expert community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Our phone number is 437-889-8329. Phone number again, 437-889-8329. And the email address is info@voiceofmen360.org. Website www.voiceofmen360.org. And also we are on all social media platform. Facebook, we have a group and page, and please join our group. You can see most of our activities are on Facebook right now, and Instagram, yes, we are, and LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Of course, please subscribe our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. And please, last, only one message. Don't just take it as a message, but how do you want to take it? Whether you want to convey this message or you want to keep it with you. At least talk to some people, share these messages, and see how you can take to the next level, how you can help one more person. That's all. All right. With that note, I really want to thank everyone. Please, travel together and then be together. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, guys. Take care. Stay well.
Thank you so much. Bye.